Hello, Professor Mendoza. This is Victoria Miro. I'm here with my good friend Diana Giraldo, who's of Colombian descent, and she's who I decided to interview. So, yeah, let's get to it. Okay. So, I wanted to ask you about the struggles that you know of your family and their background. How did they get to America, and how they traveled, and all that fun stuff. So, you can go ahead and.
Okay. Well, as you stated, I am of Colombian descent. I'm first generation born in the United States on both sides. My mother was born in Cali, Colombia. All my uncles were born in Colombia. They immigrated in '69 to New Jersey. My grandfather worked for a piping company in Colombia, which had an American contractor approach him, and he got a job offer in Albuquerque, New York. But Albuquerque is not New York City, so he instead, since he already had his what do you call it, like enabled to work, like he came as a resident.
Visa?
He had a working visa and he became a resident, and so he was able to, instead of that taking that job, he got a job in New Jersey, in Elizabeth, New Jersey, to be more specific. And he worked there for a year. And then within the year, he saved money to bring his family to the States. So then 68, he gets here. 69, they all go to New Jersey and spend 2 years in New Jersey. At that point, my mom came at 5. So she leaves Jersey at 6, almost 7. And then when she leaves Jersey, they move down to Louisiana, the Bible Belt. They moved my maternal grandfather. His sister was immigrated with her Peruvian husband to Louisiana, and that's where they set up shop. Because Louisiana caters to the Gulf, there was a need of welters, which my grandfather was. So then he just got a job there. If you want to talk about struggles, there's nothing really prevalent that they dealt with outright. Morgan City, Louisiana, more specific, is very, for lack of a better word, racist towards Mexico. They don't like their Mexicans.
Okay.
But bless, our last name is not predominantly
Giraldo. Giraldo's her last name.
Yeah, Giraldo. So it's not predominantly, it doesn't trigger someone to be like, all those Mexicans. So, but on the other hand, they were able to pass as Italian. Not to say that they outrightly try to do that. Morgan City just had a large Italian population. So, my grandfather's last name is Giraldo. That's our family's last name. And then you have his brother-in-law, who is Vettetti. Even though he is Peruvian, his last name is Vettetti. So you have Vettetti and Giraldo. And so they automatically are linked up as Italian. So there was never and for the most part, we are light skinned, all of us. My mother was blonde, fair. My mother was blonder when she was younger. My uncles don't fit the stereotype of what America perceives to be a Latino, or in better terms, a Mexican. So that was essentially their story there up until my mom was entering high school, and then they moved to Southern California.
So it wasn't until high school when she moved.
Yeah, and then when she came here, she went to high school in Lakewood. My grandfather was on his way to East Los Angeles to work there. But then he was at a diner, and he was talking to someone at the diner, and they told him, "You don't want your kids to grow up in East Los Angeles," because at that point he came with his older boy stayed back in Louisiana because he already started a family. So then when he came with my mom and her brother Mauricio, and then he pretty much set up shop in Bellflower because someone told him you don't want to live in East Los Angeles. At that point, it would have been late. It had to be late 70s because I think they left Louisiana in 78. So a lot of those 10 years were spent either on East Coast or in the South, which I think it gave my mother a much better upbringing because it was a smaller town.
Yeah,
it was fine when they came here. It was still fine because if you think of Bellflower and Lakewood like 40 years ago,
yeah, they were.
It was differently, and it was also predominantly Caucasian. So again, they weren't outrightly coined as like your East Los Angeles Latino.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So they fall under that umbrella.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's cool. Okay. Have you visited your country of Colombia?
I have visited. I've spent every other summer since I was born.
We little land.
I was born.
What parts?
So I've gone pretty much all over. But my family, when I would travel with my grandmother, we've always fly into Bogota, which is the capital. It's a very urban, very city life. But it's the way it's set up, it's kind of like you could go and have your ranch, drive an hour, drive 45 minutes in your, like it's us driving to the mountains. And it's like, oh, hey, we're in the mountains. We're in like ranch land.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So, my grandmother's from Bogota. My grandfather is from a small town in coffee country in Medellin. That area. It's technically called Antioquia. So then he's from a small town in that area. I visited both different livings. Each area has its big city.
Just like here in this area in California. Do you have a favorite tradition that your family has maintained, kind of that's like Colombian, that you can see or that you practice or that you know?
It's really hard to like pinpoint it because you don't really realize it's Colombian until
you're pinned up next to Mexican and you realize, wait a minute, they don't do that.
Yeah, like Mexicans celebrate Dia de los Muertos. That's not something traditionally we celebrate. Not to say that we don't celebrate
your own respect for the dead.
Because if you think of Dia de los Muertos, the reason the Mexican, not to again overgeneralize, but the Mexican culture, I should say, it's linked up with Catholicism, right? History major. It originally was celebrated in August, and then when the Jesuits came, they moved it.
You're gonna love this interview.
They moved it. They're like, hey, you celebrate the dead. We have something like All Souls Day. We can mish this, and so that's why they moved it to that week towards the end of Halloween, beginning of November. So that coincides with that. Not to say that again, Colombia also Jesuits came. They also gave us the faith of Catholicism. Right. So we do, I guess, in that sense, still celebrate it like that. I don't know if it's specifically Colombian tradition, but we've always celebrated with like the holidays with a nativity scene, right? More prevalent than our Christmas tree because my family didn't get a Christmas tree until the late 70s.
Yeah, because Christmas trees are more of an American European thing, huh?
So we always you gotta keep Christ in Christmas. So we did that. What's the one? I don't know. Like I know that we don't do it here, but if we were having a big family gathering in Colombia or just with a lot of Colombians during the New Year's, we burn the old man, which is like think of a scarecrow. You put you're like burning all the old stuff away. It's a scarecrow, and then you put what you want to get rid of.
Yeah, we rely on a lot of cultures to do stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's not again specific, but that's I can't really think of like a Colombian because it could go anywhere.
Right. But something that you've practiced and that I see. Okay.
But I mean, nativity scene during the holidays.
Yeah. Like since a general thing. Okay. Oh, any stereotypes of your country that you kind of frustrated you over the years, or things that or you've heard growing up or now?
I mean, Narcos.
Narcos.
The romanticizing of the drug culture.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that was brought on by U.S. money, but let's not talk about
That's another story for another time.
But I mean, it's that always all like, oh, you're Colombian, oh, the cocaine, where no one really understands the depths of it. If anything, it started with emerald smuggling before that. But again, that's a common misconception, just because the country is so much more than that. Then it's more than that drug issue. I'm sure now. Not to overgeneralize, but like I'm sure the Mexican population has an issue that certain places that were okay to be in are now overrun by cartels. And again, really dangerous cartels. Where, not to say that the cartels in Colombia were angels, but I mean, if you need to talk about Pablo Escobar, he also did a lot of good for the poor when the government looked away. So it's catch-22 when it's talking about that. Yeah, that's a common misconception. Again, the country is much more than that. How I said earlier, that I've visited my ethnicity, my ethnic country. I visited my ethnic country a lot through the years. It's more. I never knew Colombia was dangerous up until I was an adult, and that's just because I saw a CNN special, and I was like, wait, you guys were sending me to like one of the most deadliest places on earth. When I mean, I was in Colombia. I was in Bogota when they killed Pablo Escobar. We were in the same city, but do I have like that idea of it? I mean, I could be living in Compton, and it's still like you're still fine here, and then you're like not fine there. Like it's anywhere. True, that's true. It's just a common misconception.
Language, Colombian language or Spanish, I should say. You guys, do you have any phrases that you've noticed that are different? And it's okay, you can be vulgar.
Well, so my first language was Spanish. Let's start there. I was taught by my grandparents. It's like sayings that you don't know are specifically Colombian until you hear someone or someone who also speaks Spanish, but is per se like Salvadorian or Mexican. They're like, I don't know what that is. So for the longest, I mean, I guess a slang would be like, go ahead, right? Which is really offensive if you try to say that to someone of, let's say, Mexican. But I use it as like, oye Vicky, me puede coger la Coca-Cola de la nevera. And you're like, you want me to fuck the Coke? Excuse me, from the fridge? Excuse me? It doesn't mean sin, but I mean, again, it's like a shortening of it. I had no idea it meant that until someone's like, no, that's not how you say it. And I'm like, I have no idea. Or me puede pasar esa vaina. Vaina, I'm probably also really gringa, so it probably doesn't sound right. So vaina means like a thing, like pass me that thing. But it's not common in other languages, or let's say maybe like Mexicans or like Central. It's not really a thing. That's one out of the top of my head.
Those are some good ones. Do you feel like you can identify with your culture? Because like for me, Mexican, that's something I've kind of always felt hard to identify because my family, they visit, but that's all. I've only been there once when I was 2. So as you visited, a few times or every summer of your life. Do you feel like you can identify with that culture here, like in the States?
If you asked me that before 2015, I would say, of course I can identify as Colombian. What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost like I've been in the US for so long that when the last time I was over there, I definitely felt really American. Like I had that go mentality. Like, what are you doing? You're slowing it down. Like, why are you being nice to me? What do you want? Like, because there is this like culture of like being like really sweet, being like, I'm like, you're in my bubble. Like, you need to back up. You are in my bubble. I don't trust you. It's almost like I'm scarred from being an American. I'm just cautious.
Yeah.
So I could identify up to a point, but I'm not overly sweet. I've been told that I look also in just normal America. I've been told that I'm in Spanish that yo soy muy brava, like I'm really like angry. It's not that I'm angry. I just talk to you very direct, and I need you to know what we're gonna get done. Where other people are very like sweet, and I think that's cross cultural.
Yes,
I think like it's not necessarily specific to my culture, but I'm just too American. Like I realized for the first time in my adult life that I'm like, oh, I'm very from the States right now. Like I'm like, let's do this. Why aren't we getting it done? Why are you going so slow? Your job is to be a cashier. Why aren't you doing this quicker? Or why aren't you helping me the way? Like customer service is a little different. Again, not to say that they're rude. They're just a lot calmer about it.
Yeah. They
and
got that.
And they're like different, and I'm like, why are you being nice to me? Why are you being so sweet? Like I'm just always like, excuse me, which is more my Americanness that comes out. So do I ever switch into that? No, because I'm not. I wasn't raised like I was raised by Colombians, but my family's been here for like almost 50 years, like if not more.
Right.
Well, not 50 years because they were almost. They're like 40 something years. Like they've been here for 45 years. Like my grandparents have lived in a predominantly Cuban community when they were in Jersey. You know, they lived in a predominantly, Morgan City was predominantly Caucasian with the type of, like, with European immigrants, right? If you're going to, like, count Italians. And, like, maybe the one or two Puerto Ricans.
Right.
But, again, they were, you know, a small, like, they're just like not in like these gray areas. We're not gray areas, I should say. Like they weren't overpowered by certain cultures, and there wasn't like this big like almost type of, not when I say ghetto, I don't mean like hood. I mean like a culture ghetto. Like there wasn't this like conclave, I should say, of Colombians. Like if you go to Miami, you'll find a lot of Colombians. You go to New York, a certain like Spanish Harlem, you'll find a big, along with the Puerto Ricans and the Dominicans, you'll find like a large group of Colombians, because the Colombians went from Bogota to New York,
right,
Miami. But if you're talking about like Louisiana, there wasn't a lot. So in a sense, they were able to preserve some of the Colombianness, but there weren't around people to practice that, right? And then he moved to California. A lot of what my grandfather worked with, you know, aside from being like middle class labor Caucasian like workers, he also worked with a lot of Mexicans. So, if anything, you know, they'll tell my grandfather that it'll take my grandfather a minute to start sounding Colombian again, just because he's surrounded by so many Mexicans, and he'll like speak. He'll speak in their dialect, and it's just out of habit. We have a channel that caters to soap operas, and it's very Mexican based. Even though some of the stories come from other soap operas in Latin America, it's very, you know, when I hear the accent, I know it, but for the most part, they're surrounded like by Mexicans, so we adapted. They adapted to that, but until they're like a day or two around their Colombian people, then they're like, oh hi, it comes out.
Back in it, Yeah.
I hope that answered the question. I forgot what
Fully,
it was.
thank you. It was if you could identify with their culture, and you fully answered that one. Thank you. So let's end this interview with some of your favorite foods or traditional foods, if you're familiar with that, and if you've ever cooked it yourself, or if you know any places around here in the Los Angeles area.
My favorite food, Colombian food, I would say usually the empanadas. I think again, it goes back.
Everyone has their own type of empanadas, but what would be like a Colombian empanada?
Okay, so
typically,
Colombia is very like starch based. Like we got potatoes for days, so it's I want to say it's like a corn shell, corn something, potatoes, and some type of meat. So either you can make it chicken or beef. Excuse me. I like pulled beef, and then you fold it, and then it's served with this ají. If anyone knows, Colombia doesn't really have a lot of spices, like chili. Like that's very in my house. Like in my head, I think when I think of tapatio, like I think Mexican. Not to say it's negative. I enjoy it. I grew up in Southern California.
I think I'm the only Mexican who doesn't like cholula, tapatio.
I love it.
Tabasco. I don't like any of that. But
Tabasco is also not the same.
I'm just saying, like any spices, I don't. Like,
I'm sorry, but I'm just trying to school you that Tabasco is from the Avery Island in Louisiana. Okay, so like
thank you.
Facts straight.
Continue.
But also anyway, ají is just like like onion, cilantro, and there might be some lime, there might be some oil, and like salt. And you just kind of put it on your empanada and grab it to go. I've made arepas. Someone said it's like a gordita, but it's basically cornmeal, and it's just thicker.
So much pupusas.
Oh no! But do you know what a gordita is?
I've never had one.
My friend said that it's kind of like that because it's like la masa, and so it's served literally in any dish. You have it. It's our version of a tortilla. Like I always, if I have to explain it, I'm like it's a tortilla because you can have it breakfast, lunch, or dinner. But it's my grandmother would make it bigger because we would eat it with butter, and we would eat it like as a toast. Swap out the toast for that. Or you could have it like small, and it would be on your side dish next to your rice and beans.
Got it.
But so yeah, it's essentially like cornmeal with water, oil, salt. You kind of like make it into a circle. Has to be a little thick. Be like maybe your thumbnail length, thick, and then you kind of just eat it. You either bake it or fry it. Some people stuff cheese in it, which is a thing, and which is again very reminiscent of like a Salvadorian pupusas. That you can put like food in it,
or like a Mexican huarache.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, a huarache.
But I feel like a huarache is still like thinner because I feel like our corn is thicker. Not let's say it's like thick corn. It's just like it's a little heftier. Maybe that's the right word.
Gotcha. Like a sope.
When I remember your mom making
a sope.
Okay, cool.
Probably like a sope. The way you're describing it, probably like a sope.
Yeah.
Just with stuffing, like you said.
That's my favorite food. We have Colombian tamales, which again, every culture essentially has their own version of the tamales. We use banana leaves, corn masa, and then you put peas, potatoes, cut corn, and chicken. Then you roll it back up. I never made them. I only buy them. We only buy them at like certain locations. Plantains, plátanos. That's what we call it. Like again, if you're talking about different words, I call a yellow banana banano. And then the green looking banana, which plantain you would call it. I would call it a plátano. Regionally, I've heard banana for both. I've heard, like in Spanish, they would say banana, which is weird. Or they would call both plátano. I'm like, no, there's a difference. That's another thing that I think it's different. Places around here, like in Southern California, there's like a couple, there's a handful. There's like an ongoing joke that a lot of the Colombians look for other really good foods from South America because there's a very few like Colombian places. But Colombian places, I think there's a place called Ama, which is mom. Like slang. I don't know if I think Mexicans.
Yeah, I've heard Mexicans call it ama.
Yeah. Ama, I think that's in Wandale, Torrance area. There's, I think, La Fonda, which is Long Beach. And then, I forget, it's Mortillo or something. It's in Montebello. But that's where the last one that I keep forgetting the name, that's where we get a lot of our food. Buñuelos, pan de bono.
How do you make your buñuelos?
Okay, see, I don't know how what a buñuelo is.
Yeah, what's a buñuelo to you?
So to me, it's like it's a ball, and it's cheesy bread that's fried.
So it's like the
but it's like bread. It's soft, like it's just bread.
Okay.
Yeah, like I would eat it with my chocolate.
Okay, so buñuelo that I've made, I don't know if it's Mexican necessarily. I mean, it's just like a fried tortilla with cinnamon and sugar on it.
I know, because I've seen that, and I'm like, that's a dessert. Ours, it's a little bit more savory. I would drink, but then you would still drink it with a hot chocolate. Which again, I don't know how the Mexican hot chocolate versus. I feel like we use the same thing.
Grandma's.
I use Lucas.
I have to look at the brand. That's abuelita.
Yeah, I think we use abuelita one where it's the bar chocolate, and you have to use that.
Yeah.
Do you use that?
We don't necessarily, but you should. No, we leave it and it melts.
But there's this notion that
you can do that if you want, but no, we typically just let it melt. It essentially just melts, and then it's like if you're lucky, if you get the chunk of chocolate in it. It's everybody.
Oh, also, I mean, it's not cultural, but I know that they would read the chocolate cups in my house.
Oh, that's right.
Like essentially quintessential, not quintessential, I should say. It's more just common because reading tea leaves. Yeah. What else? What else do you need to know about me?
I think this covers quite a bit. Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you, Diana Giraldo, for your time.
You're welcome.
You're great. And yeah, this concludes our interview.